to the LawCast, Series 2, Episode 5. Can't quite believe we're on Episode 5 already. It just seems like yesterday when we did the first one. But today I'm really happy because we've got long-term friends of the Law Factory joining us on this one. It's Osprey, and I have Head of Implementation Alex Hiscutt here from Osprey. Thanks for joining me, Alex. I'm really grateful to have you on.
Thank you. Hello.
No worries. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about your role at Osprey, what it is, and what it is you do, and how you help your solicitor clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I've been at Osprey for around about 5 years now, just longer than 5 years. I actually came from practice, so I'm a qualified solicitor and I'm practicing now. So I've kind of got the legal background and started at Osprey predominantly working with the workflow. So I'm also the professional services person. So for anybody that wants workflows and purpose of those kind of take from the start to finish of a matter, prompting you to do things like correspondence, emails, filling out data, that kind of thing. That was how I started at Osprey. Moved into the implementations department, and that's kind of where I sit at the moment. So effectively just helping people migrate from their existing systems into Osprey, hopefully seamlessly, arranging training for them, making sure that their data is imported to the new site, helping them with their site setup, and then of course helping with any professional services afterwards. So if they want to go ahead and set workflows up, any additional document templates for the training, that falls under my department as well.
Great stuff. And I remember, I think I met you first of all. I think it was LegalX that I met you initially. When we were, because we had. I think it was the year we had. It was the first year we had a stand there. And I remember there was a big Osprey practice stand right slap bang in the middle as you walk in. And I do remember that. That was a good crack, that. And I enjoyed that year. It was you guys were there. There was quite a lot of big names there. I remember the evening being quite fun, games as well afterwards, especially with the free beers in the bar for all the exhibitors. That was quite fun. But it was a good year. Yeah. So it's great to meet you there, and also some of your Osprey's other members as well that I hadn't met before. So that was good fun. Enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm very grateful. It's always nice to have long-term friends joining us on the LawCast, and we've done a lot of Law Factory and Osprey have done a lot of things together in the past. I think we'll probably be doing a bit more in the future. So it's really great to have you around. So moving into this episode, there's a couple of things I want to look at. And the first sort of bit of news that I want to talk about is the fact that we've seen a bit of a surge in June in revenues for solicitors' practices. It's something I've come across in law news, and revenues in June, just in June, have risen by 13.6% to £4.34 billion, which is the second highest monthly billings ever for the industry. Which is, I mean, I knew things were improving in law. I mean, I had this conversation with Graham, and like in the last episode, I was chatting to Graham more about this, where the customer satisfaction with law firms, and the fact that generally people are much happier with. People are happy with the performance of law firms, and this sort of ties in nicely, doesn't it? In that we're really seeing a boost in turnover.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are your thoughts on that initially?
I think it's fab. I mean, it's the second highest monthly billings ever for the industry, which is great. There was a bit of a decline between April and May of this year, but absolutely fantastic that things are kind of starting to improve. I think it shows that it's quite stable now, and that there's a bit of renewed market confidence maybe, and hopefully it will continue to contribute to the broader economic recovery.
It's also, I think there's a lot more going on. I think there's also a big demand, I think, in a bigger demand, I think is what we're seeing. And it's interesting that it is just kind of creeping up and up. And I think there will probably be, I would expect there to be a slight drop. I think June is like maybe a peak for the moment. I think we might see July and August level out, because it tends to be holiday time, doesn't it?
Certainly been quieter for us.
As well. So I think we're going to see probably July and August sort of level out a bit, but it'd be interesting to see if in the latter end of the year, when we start heading towards, the want to get this done before Christmas kind of thing,
absolutely,
that we start seeing another rise, and maybe there is another peak to come, perhaps in sort of, I don't know, like November billings or something like that.
Yeah, I reckon November.
But yeah, definitely, I think there's definitely a big market confidence here, and I think people are more open to going and talking to their lawyers about certain things, certain issues that they have. And also, I wonder as well if there is also a slight increase in commercial turnover, where we're starting to see, because of the economy is slowly but surely getting a bit better, that we're starting to see people start new businesses or engage in new leases for properties and that kind of stuff. Whether we're sort of seeing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully we're seeing a bit more of a recovery now from COVID and all of that. It feels a long time ago, doesn't it? But also kind of like it was yesterday. So hopefully that we're kind of, beginning to recover slightly from that. It was interesting as well to note that the overall the services sector had declined quite a lot. So, to see the legal sector kind of rising above that is really fantastic.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I don't know this. I don't have any figures, by the way. But just anecdotally, I know of people, rather than sort of service industry sort of stuff, I think we're seeing more shopfront stuff, more street stuff, more grassroots stuff, less sort of office-based businesses, if you like, for want of a better term. I'm not explaining this very well at all. But sort of like just sort of grassroots, smaller businesses starting up, and maybe using legal services in order to get themselves settled with a premises or something, that kind of thing, and have agreements put in place for their small businesses, and any partnerships or things like that. But also, weirdly, and again, we were talking about this with Pambos Patsalidis from Hustlers a couple of episodes ago. In legal itself, we're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions now. I don't know whether you've come across that in Osprey.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that, and I think we're seeing that in itself will help attribute to this increase. But yeah, it's nice to see. It's really like the last few episodes that we've done on LawCast, all the news that we've been putting out about law firms in general have been really positive, which is nice. It's nice to see that they're getting the recognition they deserve, and we're seeing a really nice stabilization of the market, and an increase, and resulting in an increase in turnover, which is excellent. So for those of you that want to read a little bit more about that, you can go to lawnews.co.uk, and there's an article there. Kingsley Napoli, basically they weigh in on the latest ONS figures regarding law firms, and it's a really nice article there for folks to read if they're interested. So moving on from there, I'd like to go into sort of our main topic, which is the reason that you're here, and that is I want to talk about migrations, and I want to talk about new software, and I want to talk about how it's all done and what's important when we do that. And one of the things that I'm interested in is how you get like that really good migration, and how you get it set up, and how, because you deal with, am I right in thinking you deal with all the implementation of the new software once it's sort of done and settled and all that kind of stuff, or do you come in at the actual migration bit from the beginning?
Yeah, so we come in at the migration part at the beginning. So as soon as the client has signed their agreement with Osprey, we step in and we take over from the sales team. So we deal with kind of setting the client up for success. Hopefully, that's the idea. There are kind of several processes we go through, and I'll talk a bit about those. But essentially, we will assist the client with their data migration. So they obtain their data from their current system. We then import that to Osprey. Whilst that's going on, we'll be dealing with the training of all of their staff, and we'll be dealing with the site setup. So Osprey is quite customizable, as I'm sure you're aware. You can have all your own templates, work types, activity codes for time recording, all of that good stuff. So we help clients with setting all of that up, taking their instructions, making sure the site is as ready as it can be for when they go live with Osprey. So really it's kind of a two-sided process, because we support our clients, we want them to get the best experience out of Osprey, but ultimately we need them to work with us to ensure that they also get the best service that they can. And make sure that they have a site that's set up ready for their needs when they go live with us.
Yeah. So just on that point, I think the one thing that I've said on many of like I've said it on LawCast, I think I've said it with you guys on some of yours. It's and this is the major thing that I want to touch on is setting up before you start up. And it's just it's a kind of a phrase I've coined because I've been through a lot of migrations with various software companies, whatever. And one of the things that I notice when you do the migration right from the very beginning, when you have your initial conversation, you think, right, I'm thinking about using this software. Can we have a demo? So you have that demo, and you get given a big old beautiful demo with a perfect piece of software. Everything's enabled. It's like to the point where you go, you're mad not to use it, right? It does everything. And then but it's then taking that right from there right the way through to what you really want and what bits of it you really, really want. And one of the things that I'm very keen on is saying you really need to invest some time in learning as much about it as you can.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you can then make sure you have it when you start, because when you start, really, you kind of, unless you do that, you're going to get given a blank database, right? It's just going to be nothing enabled, and you're not going to get what you looked at, right?
Yeah, exactly that. There's kind of a process that we go through, and I think this isn't just relevant to Osprey. This should be relevant to all case management providers. If you choose somebody else, fine, but I think you should be going through a similar process, or expecting a similar process, really. So for us, one of the main things that we can do is inform clients and be upfront and honest with them about what to expect when they go live, and also to help them prepare their data ready for the migration. So data-wise, cleansing their data, that is one of the best things that somebody can do. So making sure that their archiving is up to date. I know from personal experience, I'm sure a lot of other people will kind of resonate with this, but it's the bottom of the pile stuff, isn't it? Let's be honest, you've got other stuff that's more important. It's supposed to be done. We all know that from a compliance perspective, we should be doing it, but whether it's done as soon as it should be is another thing, isn't it? So quite often it's bottom of the pile. Make sure that's up to date. You want to be bringing, I assume you want to be bringing everything. Most clients will bring their live and their archive files, but you just want those totals to be, as accurate as they can be. Get all of that stuff out of the way in your existing system, which you're completely familiar with, ready to go into Osprey. Another thing is, if you've got any files past their destruction date, get rid of them. You can destroy them at that point, so don't keep them. There's just no need. So really, really good thing is to go through all of that. Something else that's useful is to review the data that you are currently capturing. So when you're moving systems, each system will have its own database. That means each system will have its own kind of standard fields, or maybe customizable fields. We have a set of standard fields in Osprey, so things like client name, address, email, phone number, that kind of thing. And then we've got matter fields, so the type of matter, the work type, the description, the fee earner in charge, the time recording rate, all of that stuff. That's all standard, but then we can customize fields. So if you want to capture additional data, let's say conveyancing, you want to take the property purchase price, the address, buyer and seller details, stuff like that. So really useful thing to do is go through a file, set up a test matter in your current system, and really think about what you want to bring across, so that you make sure that you tell your new supplier, okay, I need this, this, and this to come into my new system. If you don't do that, the last thing you want is to find out when you've gone live and it's too late to rectify it, that there is stuff missing. So really, really important to do that.
So you find in that case that, do you often find firms where once they've made the decision to move to Osprey, that they then kind of go a little bit hands off and go, rather than invest the time in doing what you've just said, and saying, right, I need to clean my data, I need to make sure that all of the fields that I want to go over, I need to make sure that I haven't got any rubbish documentation going around, or dead files or anything like that. It's more just a case of, what, Osprey are going to sort it, right? Do you ever sort of, do you find that happening?
Absolutely, we find that all the time. And I think it perhaps comes from a place of, this is not something that they're doing day to day, is it? Let's be honest. It's completely alien to people that are dealing with a migration. It may be the first time they've dealt with it. And, it could have been several years since they've last dealt with it. They might not have changed provider for 10 years, let's say. So it's all different. It's probably changed. And so, we like to be upfront with clients that there is some work that they need to put in, because we quite often get, I want to switch off my old system and then switch over to Osprey and it'd be exactly the same. But it's not going to be. Part of the reason you've moved is because you want new features, you want new functionality, and it's a really great opportunity to tidy things up as well. So use that opportunity to make sure that you're getting what you want in your new case management system, rather than old stuff that you don't need anymore. So another thing that we like to suggest is, if you've got nominal accounts, purchase ledgers, stuff like that are out of date, you don't use them anymore, why are you bringing them across? There's no need. So really good idea to tidy up kind of system setting stuff as well. So your work types, make sure that you've got your accurate list of work types, that you're not bringing redundant information across, because you just don't want to clog up your site.
Yeah, I agree. Why bring over rubbish? Because it's only, I think if you do that, you're only going to kind of like frustrate yourself more. Like later down the line, oh, that's still here. Why is that still here? And having those conversations. And then I think definitely getting the data right is that's like priority number one, isn't it? That's priority number one for the basics. Get that data right, make sure it's all accurate when it goes into the system. Because it's one of those things that, again, another little silly thing I say is junk in, junk out. If you put rubbish into any piece of software, it could be a software that you pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for. But if you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out, right? The other thing that I'm interested in that I think is really important about the migration side of it is the setting up of the actual features and stuff, because we see a demo of the system which is fully enabled with everything working perfectly, with all of the like you guys have got. I know Osprey's got really good integration with loads of things. So like the things I really like, I like the workflow. I think that's ace. But I also like the 365 integration, and Microsoft Office integration and stuff like that. And that's one that I often see people not using. They don't get that sorted out at the beginning, and then for me, that kind of integration, you're already paying for it, right? You're already paying for your 365 subscription and all of the apps that go with it, and all the integration is included with your Osprey subscription, as I imagine. Those kind of integrations are included with other softwares as well. So, but the point, you've got this 365. Osprey will automatically time record an email or a letter or something for you on a case like family or whatever. And you can run the whole thing through your Osprey dashboard, your Osprey app, right? Through the website. So in my mind, if you don't utilize that, you're paying for something for no reason, and it's taking you more time, because you won't integrate it, so you do it through your email, and then your email then saved on a email server somewhere, not centralized to the actual system. So if you want to get your email in the system, you're then going to like drag it and drop it in there or something, and then all of your documentation is kept. Like you'll open up Word separately to the system, do it, and then save it somewhere, and then drag that in. Now, Osprey, and I know it allows you to do that fairly easily, like upload documents and stuff. But for me, that kind of feature, I'd want to make use. I want to, like, if I'm writing to my client or the other side, or I need to make a document, surely I'm thinking, well, if I can build it in Osprey, it automatically time record and save it for me in the system. Why wouldn't I do that? It's those features I feel that people need to set up at the beginning, right?
Completely, yes. So taking your point about kind of thinking of setup and the functionality that you want to use in Osprey, one of our processes is to hold what we call a shadow session with each department at a law firm. So by doing that, we have a look at what they're currently doing, how they're using their current system. We find out whose responsibility it is to do certain things. So, does paralegal do the conflict search? Does that fall to the fee earner? Who's doing what, basically? And that enables us to kind of advise on the best way to use Osprey, but also if they're missing something, if they're not using or wouldn't be using something in Osprey, but they might have a similar function in their existing system that they don't use, we can advise them of that as well. That plays into all sorts of things. So not only the site setup, but also the training. So we want to make sure that everybody, is using the system to the best of their ability, but also that they are using functionality that will help improve their day-to-day work. So really important for us that we do that part of the process, and that firms dedicate time to it. And that kind of also plays into making sure that you've told your staff about the switch, getting them excited for it. Most people dread change, completely understandable. I know I'm the same, but really this should be, to use the word exciting, but you should be kind of up for it really, and thinking, okay, this is going to improve my day-to-day job. How can I make the most of it? So getting people on board right from the beginning as well is really useful. And so by having those shadow sessions, we really get to drill into what the firms need, what they're currently doing, and what they want to continue doing in Osprey, but also where we can set up new functionality and get them using it. Like you mentioned about the integrations that we have, if you want to use the InfoTrack integration, for example, we need to know about that straight away so we can make sure that that's set up. So, through a bit of communication, kind of focusing on what you're currently doing and how we can improve, we get to find that out.
Well, I'm really glad you said something. There's one point in there that one especially that I really picked up on with that, and that is when you said we look at what you're currently doing. Like, because I was going to mention that myself, and it is that's really important when trying to pull people in, because you need to look at what are you doing. Like you're moving to Osprey, decisions been made, or whatever, right? Or whatever software you're moving to the software, decisions been made. What are you currently doing? How do you currently operate? And then really understanding how they currently operate, and then saying, well, okay, if you're currently doing like this and it takes you this long and these are the hoops you got to jump through, right? And if we can remove like 40-50% of the hoops that you got to jump through, but just by just switching slightly how you operate, but getting the same, but if not better outcome, and a better result, more speed, better data, better organization, more efficiency, just by making a tiny little switch and using the system in that way. That's massive. But you're right. It's the investment in time, and the firm actually saying, look, we're just gonna have to suck it up, right? It's any software migration, any change is difficult, right? It doesn't matter how good the software is or whatever. It's going to be tough because it's a big change for the whole firm. So we're going to have to invest time in doing that with our staff and actually say, what do we want? What features do we want? And how, and making sure that you follow it through to the end as well. It's really easy at the start to go, I want that and that and that and that and that, but then not spending the time working with the people like yourselves and actually making that happen and work properly from the beginning. Because the thing that I find a lot is that you have this situation where all of these things are available and it's like, I want to use this, whatever, but then not following it through. And this is why I say set up before start using it. The thing isn't set up ready yet, but you can wing it, right? You can it works. It does document stuff, it does time recording stuff, and it does account stuff, and that's like mega basics, right? But you're paying for so much more than that. But because you've started using it, you just carry on, and it becomes less of a priority to you to actually use the features that you're paying for, and then you don't use the features. And the amount of times that I've had a situation where someone said to me, oh, thinking of changing software. Okay, why? And they say, oh, because it doesn't do this. And you go, yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Have you actually spoken to your software company about it? No, it just doesn't do it. Right. Okay. Well, I can find you myself how it does it, how to implement it and actually set it up and get it working properly for you. Talk to your software company about it, because they're going to really help you. And really, this is something you should have said when you started off, you were going to use it. And that happens so much. And then they kind of work it out. And so, oh, it does do that. Okay, great. Well, I don't want to move now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I bet you hear that all the time.
I actually do come across that where, somebody says, oh, well, we really hate our current system because it doesn't do this. I'm thinking, God, I'm sure I've spoken to someone who told me it definitely does do that. And that was something they loved about it when they were moving and they were worried they wouldn't be able to use. And I thought, okay, well, we're here now. So
yeah, exactly.
Here we go. But I do get that quite a lot. And I think it's really important for people to, like you say, follow through with these things. It's very easy when you've got tight deadlines. I mean, we usually say we need 6 to 8 weeks to do an implementation. That's bringing across clients' matters or your files related to those matters, your account stuff. But we often get people who have left it quite late to renew or to change provider, and they come to us and they say, we've got 3 weeks. Can we do it? So, you have to make a decision about what you're going to set up in that period of time. But ultimately, what we want to do is if we're not going to fully set the system up, if we're not going to go through all of the integrations that are there, if we're not going to, do a load of bespoke workflows, we at least want to have a plan in place where we've got the building blocks for that ready. So we know that we've thought about the work types they need and the document precedents and the time recording setup and stuff like that ready for when they've gone live, they're using the system, and we now have a bit of breathing space to actually focus on that stuff. But it can be easy to lose momentum at that point. You go live, great, you can produce a document in Osprey and you can see all your data, but you need to keep that momentum going, make sure that you follow through with the professional services stuff and get your workflow set up, make sure that there's any outstanding integrations in place. And that's where our kind of client success managers really come in useful there, because they'll contact you regularly, they'll want to ensure that you're getting the most out of the system, they'll be letting you know about new features that we've implemented, just to continue to make sure that you're getting what you can out of the software, that you're aware of everything that you can do. They'll want to try and highlight any gaps. So, if something's been missed during the setup phase, if there's something now that, they could get set up for you. And, of course, we want to keep clients, we want to make sure they're happy. So keeping that line of communication open is really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that's really crucial, especially with new developments and stuff like that, and just understanding like what they're paying for and what, so what they're paying for, but they're not using, and understanding the type of law firm. Do you find that the like roles within a company, sort of like roles with like the individuals? And the individuals require, because you have the company requirement. The company requirement is, the process is X, Y, and Z. But then do you find that within the company itself, you've then got all these little roles that are split out for individuals, and that certain people are looking for slightly different things depending on what department they work in, that kind of stuff? Do you have that kind of conversation with them a lot?
There's a huge difference in how people across departments work. We see that all the time. I absolutely appreciate people have got different needs from the system, but we quite often see several different sets of templates where you think, okay, could we be using one generic template here? So client care letter as an example, I know they will have to be different, covering the different areas of law, but there are some parts of it that can be the same, and you can have that one template in Osprey or across the work types. So from a compliance point of view, it's good that we can identify these things. I suppose another thing that would be helpful really for firms to sort of consider is that the majority of the people in the decision-making process perhaps aren't going to be the ones using Osprey the most. So we'll often see partners and directors, perhaps practice managers, head of accounts, and obviously decision makers, it's their final call, but they haven't got their staff involved, and they are the people that will be day-to-day using the system the most. So I think perhaps engaging people looking more in the tendering process and looking at what's out there will be really useful, because when we get to the shadow session point, we're usually dealing with paralegals, fee earners, secretaries, people that are really using the system, and it's good to engage them from our perspective at that point, because we want them to feel confident using the system. We want them to feel like they've got a voice. So I think trying to engage staff more whilst you're looking at new systems would be really useful.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I also think it's important that those members of staff feel that they can contact Osprey or software provider, shall we say, directly, rather than feel like they have to go through a load of hoops. Because if I've got an issue with a piece of software, right, or anything really, anything IT related, right, I know that I could. There's no point really, to be fair, me going to this person in the firm, like, because they're not going to help me. Really, the person who's going to help me is, I want it from the horse's mouth. Like, if there's something that I'm struggling with, or there's something that I think I could be doing better, or just some advice, I want to be able to just pick up the phone up as an individual, phone up the software company, and go, this is what we're currently doing. This is what I'm currently doing. Am I doing this right? Because it doesn't feel right, or whatever.
Yeah.
And have the confidence to be able to do that. And I think I think there is an aspect of firms empowering their staff to feel like they can do that. Because I get the feeling that a lot of companies have a situation where it's like, oh, if you've got a problem with IT or anything like that, go to this person in the firm and this person in the firm and maybe this person. And because they've got that sort of barrier between them and, say, Osprey, they don't then ask the question. They go, oh, I've got to go through this guy first. And then he might speak to Osprey, and then I might get, oh, I can't bother, I'm just going to carry on. And then nothing is fixed that way. Whereas I think if you've got more of an open feel where it's like, look, if you've got any issues, they're really good, just phone the support, or, get on the web chat or whatever, however Osprey work with regard to support, just give them a shout and they'll give you a hand. I think that's kind of crucial, I think, to maintain a relationship with not just the decision makers, but the engine room of the firm, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that we come across is that staff can be quite disgruntled because they think something doesn't work in the system, or they don't know the function that with the system, with the task that they have to do that, is time consuming, manual maybe. And if they just rung us, they would have found out the answer to that. And, that it wouldn't have been left to fester to the point where they think, oh God, this is horrible, I can't use it. Whatever it might be. So we always encourage people to get in touch with us. All of our support is free, our training is free and included within the contract. So if you ever want to speak to support, just give us a ring. It's a UK-based team in Malvern in our head office. So always happy to help with anything. Happy to screen share, talk you through stuff, listen to what your problem is and try and resolve it as quickly as possible. So really, really great support, I think.
Yeah. I've never had an issue with your support. You guys have always been great. And you're in my hometown because I live in Malvern. So you're literally just around the corner.
There you go.
I've even been to your offices. So I've had a few meetings at your offices in the past, because just around the corner. So it's happy days. And there's a great. Do you work in the main office, Alex?
I don't know. I work from home. I'm fully remote.
Okay,
but I have been
fully remote because right next to your office on that road there's a little cafe called the Filling Station.
The Filling Station,
isn't it?
Yeah. I've been.
That's unbelievable. I don't know how they make any money. It's like they don't. It's so cheap there, but the amount that you get, like I went out to have a sausage back, please, and it's like massive thing.
Yeah.
So if for those watching and listening, if you ever get the opportunity to go to see Osprey's head office, I recommend lunch at the Filling Station. You won't be hungry. I think you could probably feed your whole family on one of those, to be honest. It's been really great having you on, Alex, talking about this. I'm grateful to being here, and I think the message I think that we both have is engage, really, with your software company, isn't it? And get things. Just talk about it. Talk about what you want. Yeah. Talk about what you've seen. Make inquiries. If you've seen something you think looks pretty cool and could really help your firm, just ask about it. Pick up the phone or have a meeting or something and talk about it. Get a demo. Work out how you could implement it. You get sitting around just waiting for something to happen means that nothing's going to happen. You've got to actually invest time in what you're already paying for or what you're about to engage with and about to pay for, and make sure that you that you make the most of it, because there are so many features out there in software in 2024, and I think we're on the verge of seeing even more like massive updates, especially with the introduction of AI, stuff like that. And I think we're about to see like another level hit. So really, we want to kind of like see what you've got already before all that comes. See what you've got already and get it all set up and working for you to just increase those efficiencies with the firm, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Echo that completely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, look, Alex, I'm really grateful to have you on. Thank you very much for sticking around. Sticking around through my tech issues, which I don't think our listeners will notice, because we would have nicely sort of smoothed them out and be a great transition, and no one will notice. We hope. Yes, thank you for coming on. And perhaps you could give our listeners and viewers a little bit more detail about Osprey, how they can contact you guys, how they can get in touch, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're an existing Osprey client, head over to our Osprey Academy. Just simply Google the Osprey Academy. That is our website that tells you how to contact us, how to raise a support ticket and book training, but it's also got a load of written guides and information that you can pick up on there. If you're a new customer, Google Osprey Approach. That's going to take you through to our website where you can book a sales demo and you can look at some of the features and functionality, but also the lovely integrations which Alex kindly mentioned earlier. And one thing to kind of make everybody aware of, I suppose, is that we're going through this phase that we're calling the new era of Osprey. So we are updating our software. We are giving it a nice new look and feel. We're improving on the functionality. More importantly, this isn't just a facelift. I want to be really clear about that. There's a lot of kind of back-end development going on. So really excited about that, and I'm part of the team. So if anybody from existing Osprey clients or people that are thinking of joining Osprey have anything that they want to kind of tell me about or raise with me, I'm more than happy for you to get in touch. And yeah, you can submit a ticket through our ticket system, or you can send an email through to our support@ospreyapproach.com email address.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And as always, I've been Alex Simons from Law Factory LLP, where we are your legal cashiers. If you want to find out more information about us, head to thelawfactory.net. All the email addresses and phone numbers are on there. So just come and give us a shout. Once again, thank you, Alex, for joining me. And we'll catch you again for the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
You have been listening to the LawCast, brought to you by the Law Factory. Why not subscribe to our Spotify and YouTube channel and head to thelawfactory.net for more information.